right. Hello and welcome to this brand new episode of FI Live. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Susan Choi, Director of Digital Media for the Food Institute, the single best source for food industry news, data trends for almost 100 years. Yes, you heard me right, 100 years. If you haven't heard of us yet, I'm glad you are sticking with us today, because now you know, www.foodinstitute.com. Please check us out. You can find all of the information there, as well as check out all of our articles, podcasts, videos, you name it, we've got it. You can become a member as easily as today. Just check us out online. Again, www.foodinstitute.com, as well as any of our online platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. We are there. I also want to remind everyone that we also have a great webinar coming up on July 26th, The Future of Food Retail. The event will feature all the latest data, analysis, and forecasts on the trends in the food retail industry. You don't want to miss it. Please sign up at foodinstitute.com. And I'm going to get right to it because we don't want to wait any longer. I know that many of you have signed up. You're waiting for the big moments. I'm going to bring all the major players up here with me. I have, of course, as always, CEO and Managing Partner of the Food Institute, Brian Choi, here with me to lead the ship. And of course, we have the woman of the hour. She is the CEO and woman on a mission to bring Stuckies to the world. To bring pecans and pecan log rolls and the road trip and all things Americana back. She is Stephanie Stuckey of Stuckey's Corporation. Stephanie, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I really appreciate y'all inviting me.
Oh, the pleasure is ours. This is going to be a great conversation. All right, let's just start it off. Why don't you, Stephanie, just recap, give us a quick summary, who you are, what Stuckey's is, and how you got to be where you are today.
I'd be happy to. Stuckey's was founded in 1937 by my grandfather as a roadside pecan stand during the Great Depression in Eastman, Georgia. And from those very humble beginnings, he and my grandmother built Stuckey's into what became the world's first roadside retail chain. At our peak, we had 368 stores in 40 states, offering gas, clean restrooms, lots of fun kitschy souvenirs, and then a full line of candy and snack nut products featuring the pecan that we made ourselves. And we had a terrible downfall, though. He sold the company a year before I was born in 1964. It was out of our family hands for decades, had a series of corporate owners. We were frankly almost bankrupt and in distress, 6 figures in the red, when I had the opportunity to buy the company back November of 2019. I bought the company with zero business background. I was head of sustainability for the city of Atlanta. I'm an environmental attorney by training. And within 2 years, we went from 166,000 in debt to, we closed out 2021, 2.4 million profit. And we're growing even more. And we can get into how we turned the company around, how our team turned it around. But really at the core of it is the group that you represent. It's food. We focused on the pecan, and we turned the company around by buying a pecan shelling plant and a candy plant. And we produce our own pecan snacks and candies in-house. And we're now distributing to some 5,000 different retail units all over the country, mostly in the Southeast, and we're working really hard to get more in the Midwest and the Far West and the Great Pacific Northwest. So we're working on expanding further, but that's how we're growing the brand, is through the pecan.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
One thing I need to know, Stephanie, the pivot you made from an environmental attorney to the owner of a business that sells pecan products. I mean, what drove you to make that switch, and why now, as opposed to, all those years growing up, you knew about the Stuckey's brand. What is it about now that you made that decision to take back, the family name, to take back the brand?
It was for sale. That's why it was for sale. They were looking for buyers, and they asked all of my siblings and cousins. My grandfather had 7 grandchildren, and none of them wanted to buy the company except for me. I tried to get the others to go in, and they probably did the financially smart decision at the time because we were in a nosedive. But why I did it was I saw something that was not on the balance sheet, and that is the value of the brand. It's the value of decades of families just like ours. Even though we didn't own the company anymore, I road tripped as a kid like everyone else, and we stopped at Stuckey's, and I remembered that experience, and that brand still has sticking power. And that's something I hope we'll get into, is the power of branding and marketing. And I attribute a huge part of our comeback to the fact that we started with a brand that was recognizable, and we grew that brand. And we really told the story of the road trip, which is at the core what our brand is all about. So I saw some there, and I guess there was an emotional, any business decision, there's going to be an emotional aspect, right? Brian's nodding. Right. I loved my grandfather. I didn't want his legacy to be a bunch of closed stores and have the first Google hit when you put Stuckey's in that search bar to be whatever happened to Stuckey's. Stuckey's went bankrupt. I didn't want that to be our headline, and I wanted to rewrite the story, and I'm rewriting the story.
Great. One thing I wanted to bring up, Stephanie, is your story really resonated with me, because right about the time that you acquired Stuckey's, Susan and I acquired the Food Institute. A lot for the same reasons that you bought Stuckey's. You liked the brand. The brand had carried a lot of weight. And, coming from corporate America myself, I'm a first-time entrepreneur, but taking those experiences that I've had in corporate America and bringing life to a brand that you really see value and that will have value to its clients really kind of resonated with me when you were when I read about you, heard about you, and obviously during our planning calls for this live stream. So I really want to really super excited to talk about branding and what that means to Stuckey's, and how you went from, I think you told me 500 followers to over 100,000 followers in a 2-year period. Pretty amazing. So I'll turn it over to Susan to talk about the next part of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So Stephanie, I definitely want to get into, the beginning. So you saw that it was for sale, as you said. You were like, I cannot let this opportunity pass me by. I think it's amazing that even though none of your other relatives were, wanted to join in, you were like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get in on this. I'm going to jump in with both feet. So what was that like when you signed those papers? You started on your way. What did you do? You started checking out, the stores that were there. What was that like? Those first steps?
So I will say my superpower was that I was incredibly naive. I'm a big fan of turning your vulnerabilities into your strengths. And had I really known how poorly the company was operating, I probably would have run screaming, just like my siblings and my cousins. So there's a certain advantage to really not knowing fully what you're getting yourself into. So what I did those first couple of months, I did a reconnaissance tour. I got in my car and I drove around and I toured the 68 Stuckey's locations that are still in operation. And without getting too much in the weeds, but if anyone wants to get into the weeds on franchising law, feel free to message me. But long and short, we were way out of compliance with franchise laws, and we did not have the financial or the operations capacity to run a franchise program. I learned that really quickly. And so we had to change all of the stores to licensing deals. And I realized that only about 10% at the time of our revenue was actually coming from then franchise fees, now licensing fees. So we were really making our money from the sale of product. And when you make your money from the sale of product, as most people in the Food Institute, you're selling a product. That product is an agricultural product or an edible product, but you're selling a product. And when you make a product, what do you do to make money? You've got to have a good brand. You've got to have good price points, and you've got to have quality, right? We had one of those. We had a brand. We didn't have quality and we didn't have price points. We had been outsourcing our product for decades. Ever since my grandfather sold the company, he sold the Stuckey's candy plant, and we have been paying other companies to white label or private label our products for us. We'd lost some of the original recipes. We'd lost, frankly, the magic that made Stuckey's Stuckey's. So to really hunker down on the product, we got an SBA loan. And I'm a huge fan of government financing if you can get it. It's great money. And these are some wonderful programs out there. So any startups out there who want to look at financing, I highly encourage you to look at some of these programs that are run by the US government. So we went through the SBA, we did the 7A loan, I got a business partner, and we purchased a manufacturing facility. That was the game changer for us. January 31st, 2021, we closed. It took us a full year to put the financing together, put the business plan together, to complete all the SBA paperwork. It takes time to get money, but it was a $6 million facility. So you can't just snap your fingers and you've got a candy plant, right? And then it's taken another year to get the packaging, to get the team, to get the recipes, to get the quality where we want it to be. And now we are dealing with the scale plans. So like we were talking about yesterday, I feel like we're not a startup anymore, we're a scale up, and we're dealing with those growing pains with how do you scale the brand and how do we get ourselves into more outlets. But that was the turnaround. So I did those first couple of months just going around and touring the stores and realizing the stores were in pretty bad shape. We debranded some of them, and we've been working with the owners, with the sales team, to try to improve the quality of the stores, but recognizing that really what is driving our growth is going to be the product.
Okay, which is interesting because I remember reading, and you can share your thoughts with me, Stephanie, is like what really made Stuckey so successful, so profitable was the partnership with Texaco and the gas station, relationship. I think your dad was quoted saying, like, you can't make that kind of money off of pecans. So thinking of that, past success, and then for you now saying, to us, like, you're really focusing on the product, whereas, you're not just going to go back to that previous formula, talk to us about that. Like, was that always your thought from the beginning? It's like,
no,
focus on the product?
I would absolutely love to have the amazing deal with Texaco Gas that my grandfather had, where he got 3 pennies for every gallon he sold. It was insane. He made a ton of money off of the sale of gas. That ship sailed in 1964. That's gone. That deal is gone. We don't own the stores anymore. So I had to take a bath into the ice cold reality of my situation. And I like to say, I respect the past of our brand, but I don't live in it. And if I lived in the past, if I tried to revive these stores without any financial or staffing capacity, we would be bankrupt right now. So I had to take the reality of my situation to revive this brand. But having said that, we are still a road trip brand. So we can be all about the fun of the road trip, even if what we're doing is mostly selling product. And here's an example, the mug I'm drinking out of, what's it got on there? It's like a family that's taking a road trip. So it's like if you buy a Hawaiian shirt at a suburban mall in Cincinnati and you're in a landlocked area. Well, you can wear that Hawaiian shirt and feel like you're at the beach, even though you may be hanging out in your basement watching TV. So it's the branding, it's the experience. And our brand has decades of value associated with the road trip. And we can still be all about the road trip. My ultimate goal is to be profitable enough with the sale of the product where we can own and operate a very small handful of corporate-owned stores that would be on the interstate, that would celebrate the road trip. But they would be amazing stores. They would be a destination location, right? And it would be in places like Dollywood, Myrtle Beach, that are really touristy destination locations in themselves. So you're already drawing a crowd there. But that's that's the beauty. You have a 100-year-old company, right? We have an 85-year-old company. I think we can both say you run a 100-year-old startup. I'm running an 85-year-old startup. You're reinventing something that's been around a long time, right? So when you're in it for the long haul like that, to me saying, well, we're going to have to wait 5 to 10 years to actually have a storefront, a brick and mortar. I'm okay with that because 10 years is nothing in the life of a brand that's been around for 85 years. Right. Have patience. I am not partnering with private equity that wants to see a return on investment in 3 to 5 years and then they're out of here.
Right. You want long-term partners.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember when Yeah, that totally resonates. I remember when I started rebuilding the vision of Food Institute. I've had venture capital people and also private high net worths wanting to partner or and even buy out the company, and they had such a short term mindset. They're like, okay, we're going to invest money 3 to 5 years. We want a return. I'm like, I don't want you as partners. And so I rejected them, and we brought in a long term partner. A third generation, food and beverage company owners to be our partners, and so it's all about building the brand and seeing the long term perspective of where the brand can go.
And the beauty of what you did was you brought in someone who was an expert. So they're not just bringing money to the table; they're bringing connections and expertise that's valuable to the growth of the company.
That's right. That's right.
So it's not just a bunch of investors, and there's nothing wrong with that model if you want that, but I found that model does not work for Stuckey's, and it's not working for the Food Institute either. I'm curious, another problem that we had with talking to private equity is they would come to me and say, well, what can you do with $10 million? Well, that was more than the valuation of the company at the time, really.
Right.
I'm like, for $10 million, you would not only own Stuckey's, but I'd throw my house and my car in. You know?
Right.
But they're looking at making that level of investment, yet they want to make that investment in startup companies. So you make that level of investment in a startup, you're giving away your company at that point.
Right. And it's also about the culture as well. Like before, Susan and I took over Food Institute, the culture was very different back then because people weren't excited. It was, the brand wasn't innovating. The content wasn't being transformed in a more modern setting. And so you bring in a partner that has a short-term focus. They don't care about the culture. They're just looking at dollars. And so, the culture of Stuckey's, the culture of Food Institute, we recognize that is what that brings that intangible value that you can't really put a price on, that type of culture within an organization. And so, so I wanted to just make that one point, is that culture is so important when you're, whether you're a startup or whether you're scaling up to that next level, that culture is a competitive advantage in organizations that have that long-term perspective.
Well, did you see the comment from John? Be careful of the short-term money. Why do you think they call it Shark Tank?
That's right.
Yes,
Absolutely. Yes.
Spot on. And a lot of people have asked me, why don't you go on Shark Tank? First of all, I don't think we're even eligible because we have been around so long. I think they look for new businesses, right, with a new business model. But second, that's the very point. They call it Shark Tank for a reason. And I have talked to some of the Shark Tank winners confidentially, and it's not all that it's cracked up to be. There's the rest of the story that happens after the show is over, when those partnerships may or may not work out. And in many cases, you have sold your brand.
Right.
You've lost not only control of your brand, you've lost a culture, right? If you have the majority ownership, you have that culture.
Right.
What I'm hearing here, which is I think such relevant points of like I'm thinking of the word like intentional marketing, intentional strategy, intentional choices when it comes to pitching to investors and who you're pitching to, who you're entertaining conversations with. Taking it back to Stephanie, what you were just talking about, even though you're not partnering with the gas station, you still strategized and saw that the brand was still tied to the culture of the road trip, because that's what Stuckey's was about. And so you found a way to still keep it tied to that original, culture and tradition. Yeah. And so far it seems like it's working. Because you could have just gone straight e-commerce. You could have, especially in this day and age, right? You could have done there could have been so many ways that you could have gone, but you chose.
And we did that too. We do e-commerce. And our e-commerce went up 780% in 2 years. And I haven't done the numbers for this year yet, but e-commerce, I think it has to be an all of the above strategy, right?
Right.
You have to look at, and if e-commerce has got to be part of that all of the above.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
One thing I wanted to kind of like touch upon. So you buy the manufacturing facility, and your profile at that point, did you start going onto social media and
Yes.
filming yourself? So tell us about that phase. Like, what was the thinking behind, going on social media? It seems like you're posting, especially nowadays, like every couple of days, and it's like very, very active. And so talk to us about kind of the thinking behind that and how big of an impact that's had on the Stuckey's brand today.
It's been a huge impact. It's the only marketing we do because we don't have a budget for marketing. And that doesn't mean that we don't value marketing. It's just right now we are focused intentionally, I love that word, Susan, on the production. And we are getting more accounts, frankly, than we can manage. I like to call it a good problem. And so in order to manage the accounts and scale production, we're putting all our money into hiring new staff, giving raises where appropriate to the existing staff who are really working double time to meet the new production orders that we're getting in. So all that means the marketing is falling on me, and it's been on me since day one. So what we can afford is social media posts. Now, I wish we could have a lot of really data-driven, tech-savvy ads. Maybe in our future, I would love to do that. For now, it's social media posts. But what I love about that is anyone listening, you can do social media posts. You don't need a big budget. You can get all these social media accounts for free. I do pay for premium accounts, but that's so friggin' affordable. And so I just taught myself marketing by reading Seth Godin books and watching Gary Vee videos and tutorials on how to figure out the Instagram algorithm and the TikTok algorithm and how to make a TikTok. I watched all these YouTube is amazing. There is a video for everything.
Amazing.
My car broke last week and I'm still very much, I'd say we're ramen noodle profitable. We're profitable, but I'm not going out for 4-star dinners at these fancy restaurants. So my car broke and I watched a YouTube video literally on how to fix my car. It saved me hundreds of dollars at the gas station watching a YouTube video. So you can find anything. You can find out how to do surgery on a YouTube video. Do not recommend that, but it's all out there. So do you watch Gary Vee? Do y'all listen to him?
Yeah, I love his story. Like he is a master marketer. Leveraging social media to that next level. So absolutely great.
I love him too. Some people don't. And I'm just like, well, sorry. Because I am living proof that Gary Vee works. He says, post 5 times every day on every social media channel. I don't have the time for that, but it was still a very nice high bar to set. And I realize, what's realistic for me is I can post at least once a day. One original organic post every morning. So I had a cadence every morning. I do a post, and then throughout the day I can comment, share, like, etc. I try not to have it consume my day. So lunch break and then end of the day, but pretty much like that morning post is what I do. That's my original post, and you do that every single friggin' day, unless maybe you're in the hospital or something. But really, with very rare exception, I'd say 360 days a year, I am putting fresh content every single morning. And I just started doing TikTok. And for a year, Susan, to answer directly your question, for a year, I got almost no engagement. I'd get maybe 20 likes and 1 or 2 comments. So it was a slog. And then here's what changed it. There was one pivotal moment that changed it. And I was traveling around looking at the Stuckey stores, and I drove by a former Stuckey store. It was no longer operated as a Stuckey's, and it had become some other gas station, but they were so cheap they didn't take down the Stuckey sign. So it still had the Stuckey sign out front. But then it said, I can't remember the guy's name, but it was like Joe's gas station, right? And it was awful. It looked terrible. It was so run down, and it broke my heart. And I pulled over, and I'd been doing all these posts like, oh, buy our pecan log rolls, or, like the typical buy our stuff. And I wasn't telling a story. I wasn't being authentic or real. I think authentic gets overused sometimes. So I'm going to say real. I wasn't being real about what my journey has actually been. And so that day I was like, I'm not going to say the word, screw it. I was like, screw it. I'm just going to take a photo of this former Stuckeys. I call them ghost Stuckeys. So this ghost Stuckeys, and I'm going to say what I'm really thinking. And so that's what I did. And I said, I'm driving through the back roads of Alabama in search of lost Stuckeys. But I think this brand, like this country, even though we've gone through hard times, is worth saving. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to not only bring Stuckeys back, but to be part of bringing this economy back in our country. So I had like a little God bless America kind of, let's bring back our country's economy too. And this is when COVID had hit.
Right.
And I just posted it. And then throughout the day, I kept hearing the ding, ding, ding on my phone, right? So I had to cut the notice off. And by the end of the day, it had gotten like 2,000 likes and hundreds of comments.
Wow.
Yeah, within a month, that post had gotten 500,000 views.
Wow.
Wow.
500,000. And
That's awesome.
That post has since hit 1 million views.
Wow.
And so then I was like, okay, once you figure out what works, do more of that.
Right.
So then I just started posting about my journey and saying, this is what's happening to me. This is my day. This is what I'm experiencing. And people resonate with that.
Yeah. So a couple
Sure.
things I just
Every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple things I wanted to just recap here.
Yes.
Posting
No,
every
Stephanie,
single day.
Sorry.
Right. So number one, post every day. And it, do it for the long haul, because that moment where things kind of blow up, that could happen maybe 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, but keep at it. That's number one. Number two, good storytelling, right?
Yes.
Real stories, right? Be who you are. And I think that lesson can be, taken from any small business owner, startup, or even large corporations, because they all have the $1 million budgets. And sometimes when you get that post, it seems fake. And so
Yes.
people, especially in a time period where they, lots been going on. COVID's affected a lot of people. It's ruined a lot of, organizations. People want that emotional connection. I think that's one of the things that why people resonate, gravitate towards you, Stephanie, is that they can live through you, through your own experience, and find hope. And so I think that emotional connection is so amazing. So I just wanted to highlight that for the folks here that's listening live and will be watching in the future. Definitely.
Yeah, everyone. The comments that we're getting, people are relating to it. One thing I do want to bring up, a question from Brittany. She's asking, do you struggle to create fresh and engaging content daily?
No. And I'll tell you why. Because things are constantly happening. Like somebody just posted no Stuckeys left behind. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm using that as a post one day. So message me so I can be sure to tag you and give you credit for that. Yes. Okay, John.
Right.
I will send you with that. That's a post. That's a great post. I just have to come up with a good image for it. So your days are full of stories. And those stories can be interesting. It's in how you tell them and how you interpret them. But I'll give you an example, okay? And this is one I haven't posted yet, but I was just thinking about, why haven't I posted this? A couple of weeks ago, I went to give a speech. It was at Trilith Studios, which is a movie studio in Atlanta, and they have a hub of entrepreneurs that they are bringing up in that community, in the movie community. And once a month, they get together and have a breakfast, and they bring in speakers, right? So I was their monthly speaker. Well, Trilith Studios is owned by Dan Cathy, who recently stepped down as CEO of Chick-fil-A, and he's a gabillionaire, right? So I get there to this event, and there's about 50 people there, and Dan Cathy is there. And so suddenly I'm very nervous, right? This CEO of Chick-fil-A. And then he walks up to me and says, oh, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to introduce you. So now I'm totally freaking out and really nervous. So what I did was I go in the bathroom and I look in the mirror and I'm giving myself a pep talk. And I'm saying, you got this. You've got this. you can do this. Like, and I literally was saying this to myself, and I hear the toilet flush. Somebody was in the bathroom. I didn't think anyone was in there. So,
Nice. Yeah.
so embarrassing.
Awesome.
But like, that's a great post, right? People can relate to that. Like, we all have those moments when we're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get up there in front of the CEO of one of the largest food corporations in the world and talk? So I got that.
That's great. I mean, relatability, you know, I mean, we see that growing in social media in general. And we've actually, the Food Institute, we've done interviews with experts who have said like that is the growing trend that, you know, current and younger generations are looking for. They don't want to hear words from corporate anymore. They want to hear, you know, that's why the blogger, the YouTuber,
yes,
those are the people that are getting eyes and getting views, not like the professionally networked, you know, network television, movie stuff. It's like kids want to see, or and adults, like they want to see people their own age, right? Or they want to see people, you know, living their lives and dealing with the problems that they deal with, right? They want relatability. They want to feel the connection. And it's right in line with what you've been talking about this whole time. And I do want to bring up Michael Ruby. He is asking, is there a pecan roll dance for TikTok? I think that's something you need to get on, Stephanie.
Okay, see, there you go. I got to get a song, right? We got
maybe this is a call to people. Are there any Stuckey songs, like potential Stuckey songs?
You're so right. I do about the vlogger, because my kids who are 16 and 20 watch YouTube all day, and they want to see people their own age. And you're right, they want to relate. Like, I could do this. So 100%. The other really good advice that I got, and I want to attribute it to Gary Vee, I'm almost certain it came from him, is when you do a post, try to end with something that is going to provoke a dialogue, or craft your post in a way that it is going to inspire people to post a comment that's not just thumbs up or great job, but sharing their own personal experiences. So you're prompting a dialogue. But I know the way the algorithms work with Facebook and some of the others, if you say, post below in the comments what you think, that they'll downgrade you or make your post less accessible if you do something too blatant. But if you say something like, have you had a similar experience speaking in public? What have you done to hype yourself up to speak in public? That kind of thing. You'll be amazed how many people respond. I'll get another example. I was going to Oklahoma City, and I said, hey, anyone know some fun diners or roadside attractions or motels, places that are really specific and fun and unique to Oklahoma City? Post below. And I literally got like 400 comments with suggestions.
Wow. That's a great,
Engage people.
Yeah, people want to engage. Absolutely.
Engage people you want to be engaged with, right? I'm a road tripper.
Yeah.
My brand is about road tripping. I want to hear from other road trippers about fun road trip places. And so if you ask people, what do you think?
They will answer. Yeah.
Right.
It reminds me of
what do you think?
Yeah. It reminds me of we did a case study on this cookie up and coming cookie company, Chip City, based in the tri-state area. They are very intentional with their social media, and they're constantly engaging. They do sweepstakes, they do raffles, they pose questions. Where do you want to see the next Chip City? They get hundreds of answers. Bring it to bring another storefront to Long Island City. Bring one to this place in New Jersey, Queens. All over the 5 boroughs. It's all the audience. They want that connection. I do want to take it back to Stephanie, what you were talking about. You were making a great point to Brian's question about marketing itself, the budget for marketing. You're focusing on the labor. Kelly Beaton had a question. I'm going to put it up. How is Stuckey's dealing with the labor shortage, and what tips or advice do you have, Stephanie, along those lines?
So we've had to hunker down and pay people more. So the reality of being an entrepreneur with a startup or a 100-year-old startup or 85-year-old startup like we're running, is that you have to give yourself a runway where you may not be pulling a big salary or frankly any salary at all. And to me, it is more important to make sure that our frontline workers are getting competitive salaries and we're producing product. And I'm okay not buying new clothes for a while and to keep on driving the car I bought on Craigslist that I repair watching YouTube videos. I can do that because I'm going places.
Right.
I'm getting to a destination and I will get there, but it's going to take some sacrifice. You don't get there by pulling a big salary and not making sure that the people who are really helping grow your brand and produce your product aren't being paid living wages. I don't want to say fair wages. I want to say living wages. And so when I bought the company, we weren't giving insurance benefits. So now we have insurance, and now we've given 2 rounds of pay raises. And not only that, but we're creating a pathway to prosperity with our team. And it doesn't matter if you're a frontline worker on the chocolate line, which actually is a really fun job. I think I'd be okay working on that chocolate line. But if you're a frontline worker on the chocolate line, or you're in the pecan roasting room, or you're in the shelling plant, or you're picking and packing in the warehouse at the distribution center, you can be part of a team and learn skills. So we're putting together teams. You can be in the roasting team. You can be on the chocolate and Rover team. You can be on the taffy team. So we put people on different teams. And if you cross train and learn the skills for the different teams, then we'll give you a bump in your salary. Mm. If you complete forklift training and you're in the warehouse, that's going to qualify you to get higher pay because you're going to be more valuable to us. And so we're trying to get those skill sets and that belief and grounded in reality that you can be promoted if you want to be. So as much as possible, we're eyeing the talent. We're paying attention to who's working these shifts, and we're pulling people who are really producing and saying, you're a team leader. We want you to be a shift leader. So it's giving people the reward so they know that if they are really working hard, that they can be advanced. Because I don't know if you really want to spend your whole life working a front line of a candy plant. We're also innovating. We're investing heavily. And I mean, I'm talking $300,000 for the new piece of equipment that we're getting. So we're investing in more machinery and investing in getting technicians onboarded. So we just hired 3 technicians, and we're getting we just got a rotary bagger machine. We've got 2 new bagger machines on the way. We just ordered several more fire mixers. So we're getting all this candy equipment that's going to help us scale and will frankly displace some workers. But these are jobs that people aren't just jumping up and down to get. And the jobs that we are going to start hiring more and more of are going to be the technician, the machinist.
Right.
And these jobs you can get with a GDE going to Vo-Tech school. Mm-hmm. So these are all good paying jobs that are skilled that we're going to try to start having more of our team be technicians because we're automating.
Right. That's a great talking point. And, thanks for the question, Kelly. One question I want to, going back to kind of the social media and growing your audience. And I just looked at your latest numbers. You're almost at 97,000 followers.
Yeah.
How big of an impact has that had on sales? I know you can't really quantify it. For those who are listening in, what has that meant for you from a are you seeing a 50% growth, or talk to us about the value of building an audience that large on social media towards sales?
Well, I can give you a broad answer, and then I can give you some very concrete, specific examples. Almost every single major account that we've gotten has been through a LinkedIn lead. Now, we are in the B2B space more than the B2C space. We do sell direct online, and we do see a really good bump, especially Q4 in the online sales. But we're really a B2B company, and LinkedIn is the marketplace for B2B.
That's right.
And so check those messages. I'll get messages from people, or I'll even see people who comment on my post, and I'll pay attention to who they are. And if they're a food distributor, if they work for a food company, if they work for a convenience store chain, I will private message them along with a link to our wholesale catalog and say, have you ever thought about carrying Stuckey's product?
Right.
We'll give you a special deal on an opening order. We'll waive shipping, whatever, I'll put my little pitch out there. But when I do my pitches, it's not in these posts that are untargeted. The pitches are in private messages. That's where you do your sales. And then it's very specific. And I will look into that brand. For example, Parker's is a great small brand, but has won lots of awards for being top of the industry in the convenience store space. They have about 65 locations in the Savannah, Charleston area. And we're in not all their stores, but we're in about a dozen of their stores right now. I hope to get into some more. But that was from a comment on LinkedIn, and I followed up with Brandon Hoffman, their chief operating officer. And then I went down to Savannah and gave the pitch, and we're in their stores. And that's been a good steady account for over a year. Here's another example. We're about to get into Wawa when they do their reset in October. We'll just be in the Florida stores, but they're going to carry our maple pecans. And that came as a result of me doing a social media post at a Wawa, drinking their coffee. And their coffee is delicious. And I'm holding up a cup of their coffee. And I said, got to get a Wawa. And I did this post about how much I love Wawa. And it wasn't a sales post. It's, I love Wawa.
Right.
And next thing I know, I get a message from the CEO, and we had a video chat, and he was incredibly kind and generous. It was only 15 minutes, but I'm grateful for 15 minutes with the CEO of Wawa. And he put me in touch with their buyer. And these big brands, you have to realize these big accounts don't happen overnight.
Right.
So that conversation, I think, was in May, and we're not going to actually see our product land in their stores probably till October. So it takes a while. You have to go through their category review, and then you send them samples, you send them all your spec sheets, blah, blah, blah. You put forward the promotions and the price list and figure out the distribution.
Right.
But that was from a post on social media about how much I love Wawa.
Yeah, and I can attest that for Food Institute, our growth in the large accounts has really come through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
We are all almost 99% B2B. A lot of our sponsors and advertisers, they see the content that we're posting on a daily basis, and we sometimes it takes 3 months or 6 months or even a year to land that contract. But once you land it, you have like a client for life, and so just, that definitely resonates. And I don't post as often as you do, but I'm getting there. But one other aspect that I think is an interesting nuance is that your personal brand is so tied to your corporate brand.
Yes.
And so, talk to us about how you're managing, is there a distinction? If so, how do you manage that? And because you're so much of a high profile entrepreneur, and you're posting about your life. So talk to us about your, the pros and cons and nuances about being such a public figure, and both your personal and your professional. How do you balance that?
Sure. And first, let me just we totally deserve to be in the B school classroom.
Yes.
Right, they need people like us to give them the real world perspective, the stuff that you don't always learn in the classroom. We have definitely learned the stuff you don't easily. But I learned it's not just like a picture of you, right? It's not like this glam shot. It's you doing something interesting. It's interacting, but it's that human component. So I started doing it out of is all are welcome. And when you say all are welcome, you need to be all are welcome.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to.
One other question I want to ask. Do the rest of your leadership team post? Right.
I have an equal partner. Probably more. He's probably. I definitely traded up getting him on board. So.
Wow. Great.
That's awesome. I do want I just like how no Stuckies is left behind. I don't want to leave any question left behind.
Yeah.
We have Keith Don. Maybe
a lot of the old employees, so we pieced together some of the recipes, but the main thing is just being true to the recipes. I will tell you a funny story. My grandmother was very protective of the absolute freshest pecans you will find anywhere. I don't think there's any other candy company out there that's doing the process and the fresh nuts like we are, especially with pecans. We are in the #1 state for pecans. You can message me on LinkedIn too. It's just more certain that I'll respond to the email. There you go. Oh, that looks so nice and professional.
Stuckies.com. So I want to thank the audience. They had some great questions. Sorry we couldn't get.
So my dream is to have us be the go-to brand for pecans in this country. So any snack aisle, in any grocery store, any convenience store, any gift store, you will see Stuckey's pecans alongside Emerald.
Help a lot of folks today. So really glad that we can share the insights that you brought, Stephanie, to the broader Food Institute audience. Please become a member and definitely check out Stephanie's